That's it. The little blue bar is on to say we're live. Today is Monday, the 25th of February 2019. Hello, chat room. Everybody waiting in the chat room. We're on with Cece so far, and we're waiting for Dave, allegedly, to come on. So, how are you, Cece? Patricia's here as well, by
Very
the way.
good. Very good, Karen. How are you? Patricia, how are you? Good to see you
Patricia,
again.
Cece.
Hi everyone. Hi Cece.
How are you?
Hi Karen. I'm good, thanks. You?
Good, good. I can't complain. You know, it's windy down here. I'll tell you, it's like Chicago. We got 60 mile per hour winds here all day long.
Yeah, I know
Patricia,
what it's like in Chicago.
thanks,
Never
Ellie.
never
So my
been
daughter
there.
just bought me something. Patricia's looking forward to the quiz tomorrow, aren't you, Patricia?
I'm excited and nervous at the same time. But yeah,
You'll
What's
be
the
yeah.
okay. You'll be
what's the
okay.
quiz? I don't know anything about the quiz.
Music quiz tomorrow night.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Anyway, we're out with CC, who's out and about.
Yes, unfortunately, I'm still working. I thought I could get off early today, but it didn't happen. So, but I'm here, so that's important. Hopefully Dave will be able to get on before I have to go, but I don't know if he's gonna get on at 5 o'clock my time. Yeah, I might miss him,
Yeah,
but
he's 4 hours behind.
yeah, I'm 4 hours behind. 4 or 5 hours. 4 hours now.
He did message me earlier on, but he's probably gone to the shop or something. I don't know.
He might have. He'll probably pop in, but yeah, I'll stay here as long as I can. Absolutely. Talk some flat Earth with you, some things that I've noticed.
Yeah, we were putting the worlds to right last time, weren't we?
Yeah, well, yeah. I think we left off at the mud flood, is what we were talking about.
We didn't get past that one, did we?
Yeah, and there's so many other things I wanted to say, but yeah, actually, I spoke to the guy that I would be going down with to the Iron Flat building, and just doing some research of my own, and because this is research you can do. You can go research these buildings, and go check it out, and see if it's plausible. See if this is true or not. It's very difficult to get up in the sky and figure out what the sun and the moon are. I don't have access to a jetliner or anything like that, so I'm out of luck there. I think most people are.
Yeah, no
Um,
wonder there's a song called "Fly Me to the Moon."
yeah. Well, we have a car that flies. It's only about $1 million. You have that kind of money, but oh, and there's another thing too that I brought up with you is the suppressment of technology. With us, it's kind of just like stopped. We get into this manufacturing of vehicles and going into the combustible engine, and then kind of toying with electric cars, which that was phased out, obviously. And I mean, the Tesla's an electric car, but I mean that's you're talking $100,000 vehicle. It's not affordable for someone like me or you. That's not that's we're left with these combustible engines that we've had for about 100 years now, with no choice at all. And the technology in these vehicles, yeah, I mean, still to this day, which I find amazing, is that they haven't merged the cell phone with the car. After all these years, after 10 years of having a smartphone, or 12 years, I think is about how long they've been out for, they still have not, the manufacturers have not been able to figure out how to merge these two, where I could just put my phone on the dashboard and it reads everything that's going in the car. It's reading everything, doing all my music, it's doing everything, so I don't have to touch it, and they haven't merged it yet. There hasn't been like a little slip that I could just stick the thing in and bam, your phone is running the car. But so our technology seems really erratic and weird and suppressed. We should be in cars right now that are flying around. I mean, we should have our own transportation devices to get from one country to another, personal devices, and we don't. We never will. And there's one main thing why they won't allow that, I think, is because of flat Earth. Because now you're gonna have people running around, and they finally will figure
Free
out.
energy as well. The free energy side of things. They don't want that to come out, do they?
No, because eventually we'll figure it out. Now we have even more of a chance by keeping us like this, where we are now, indefinitely. We really don't have. I mean, it's very difficult to get to Antarctica. you know, and how much do we have to cover? You know, I mean, how many miles is it to the dome? You know, I mean, how long is that trek? How long will that
I
take?
know,
Will you survive?
we all would like to know, all of us here. I just want to do a quick shout out. There's you, Barris, Stacey, Mr. Thrive and Survive Rich has popped in as well. There's Patricia, Leah, Clive, Dawn. Just saying hello to a few people in the chat room. We'd all like to know that one, and everybody in the chat room.
Yeah, you know, and it really is amazing. I mean, people, don't get me wrong, people are trying to raise money and trying to get the funds to get down there. But what happens when we get down there? You know, you know what I mean. I always say get down there. Very difficult for me to get up there.
That's if that place exists, you know, because they've gone so far about Antarctica and about the North Pole. It's probably the North that exists and the South, or whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I'm going to agree with you on that. I mean, and that's the thing. What happens when we get down there? Is it really? I mean, you know, the military's down there. They're not going to let us go anywhere. You know, and so it's you telling me that they're not hiding something, and people don't think that they're hiding.
They're not
something.
really going to allow us to go to the north either, are they? Like suddenly these boats started going that way, they'd stop them.
Oh yeah, way before they got there.
You don't hear of boats being stopped, do you? It's not like it makes the head news that these people were trying to go north, these people were trying to go south. You don't hear of it, do you really? And if you do, it's so local or small, not really going to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I mean, look at Area 51 here in the U.S. You can't even get within a quarter of a mile of that base, which I don't even know what they're really hiding. Probably weapons or something. I mean, because we all know UFOs don't exist. You know, so who knows what they're doing out there? But you know, they've got cameras, they've got sensor detectors, they've got ground detectors, they've got these strange black cars that come out of the woods if you come anywhere near the fence. You know, so you can imagine what they're doing down, you know, and on the ice walls. You know, I mean, really, who knows? Who knows what? You know, until we get down there, we won't know anything.
Yeah, but we don't seem to be allowed to go in these directions. So I've just heard from Dave. He's having a bit of an internet problem getting on at the moment.
Oh, good. He's out there. Good. Excellent.
He's there, but he says he's been trying to connect, but his internet says, please wait. That's what I think.
No, I know. It's so annoying. Well, at least we have this technology. I'm trying to, you know, make new friends and get myself out there. So, you know, people.
Do you try telling anybody that's in your car, or you don't do that because it's your job?
Yeah, no, these people are patients. Some of them are half dead, so they wouldn't even know what the hell's going on anyway. I have some patients that are alert, but it's not something I want to bring up with them. And these people are in their 70s, you know, 80s. That generation, they're gone as far as I'm concerned. You really don't have much of a chance waking them up because they've had 75 years of being in this, you know, this lifestyle of indoctrination.
Our parents are the most indoctrinated, aren't they? They're the ones that they made them believe that we've been to the moon.
Yeah,
and that
they grew up with it.
The planet. Those ones are more mind controlled than the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least in the 70s, they went through the moon landing, but they weren't really interested in it. They probably were watching, what was it, Lucille Ball was out at the same time. People were complaining about that. It's the moon landing. They couldn't watch. I Love Lucy.
Existed, considering how much they've pushed space. Don't you think we'd be flying up there on cruise ships that there'd be this level, this level, this level? You know, we're going higher. This one's higher, longer. Anyway. Yeah, go around the globe. Well,
exactly.
Can they? Because how can you go around the globe like they say? What is it? The ISS space station takes 17.5 times a day.
Yeah, no, that's one thing that's been suppressed like you wouldn't believe. I mean, you know, we should be dancing around on Mars right now, you know, and
your favorite topics, isn't it? Is NASA.
Yeah, because everybody believes in it, and I did. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't, but You know, when you unlock it and you start looking at it. I mean, look at some of Bling Bling's recent videos. I was always into the mirror, you know, the reflection in the background of what these astronauts are doing. It's showing the fifth wall. And there's definitely some shit going on there. I mean, there's people standing, their chairs. The one in China, that's even worse. Oh, I love them out there because they haven't mastered anything at all. And I think Dave's making his way through. I hear. So they're really sloppy. You know, they got in one of the reflections. You can actually see a chair. You know, just a regular chair, not moving, not floating. You know, and you see a hat on it. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I think they want us to see this. You know, there's no doubt in my mind about that.
I think they're still expecting lots of people to not realise what they're seeing, to be honest. I still think they're banking on that, and a lot of people don't. I mean, I've got another channel where I'm doing something, right, and it's a bit of an experiment. But what it is when I'm trying to show them something, half the people, maybe three-quarters of the people go, got it, I see what you're saying. The other half go, oh my God, what are you going on about? You've doctored this. I don't see it at all. You're lying. But then
It's
there's
tough.
this section that do see it, and there's this other section that just don't.
Yeah, it is tough. You really got to look. And I would have never. I did see one for the first time on my own without even knowing about the reflections, and that was I could see a guy's face in the reflection without a helmet on, and they were showing a video of. I guess the camera was pointed out one of those small windows or something like that, and then it was a reflection off of whatever crap they have, you know, attached to this thing that who knows what it really is, but you can see the reflection right there, you know. But you got to look at these things. You got to put it on pause, and you know, you can let it go really fast. No, wait, who that is indoctrinated, that believes in NASA, is watching the NASA live feed? What is it, got a count of 40 people that are watching it? I mean, really, I wouldn't be watching it. I wouldn't even care. I didn't even know it was there.
Yeah, we've got a night with Bling Bling next week. We're going to take, I'm not sure if it's actually a new video of hers or whether it's actually one of her newer ones, but we're going to go through one of her videos with her dissecting it.
Yeah, there's one of a car. You can actually see. It's difficult to see. You really got to put this one on pause. But in the reflection off of, I think it was one of the windows. Oh, no, one of the things, it was like maybe a computer or something like that, a laptop, that if you look at it, you can actually see what looks like a freaking car, you know. And she was saying it too, but if you think about it, they've got to bring these astronauts somewhere, and how are they going to get them there? They're going to have to drive them in some blacked out Jeep Cherokee with tinted windows on it and just escort them into this fake ISS and then yank them out of there. And you know, who knows where they're going, if they're in this country. I don't know. I don't know where any of this takes place, but I know it's all fake, and it is just, they're really sloppy with their work. But that's part of the system, I guess, and they could care less. They don't care if we don't believe it or not. It's a Hollywood show to them.
Yeah, it's all to do with money, isn't it? And mind control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are made to do this. You can actually see one of them. It looks like one of the astronauts is actually choking one of the other astronauts, like she didn't want to go along with it. That was one of the first videos I saw of Bling Bling, I think. And I was like, oh man, this is really bad. I mean, this is satanic stuff that they're all a part of, you know. And this
one of
is.
the first ones I saw of Bling Bling, she'd been talking and then she was angry and she was like, I want my money back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, could be. Who knows? I mean, it's it
We're here. Well done, Dave.
Cheers, Dave. How are you?
It was weird because something started ringing, and even after I answered it, it was still ringing. And yeah, so weird.
CC has joined us today. He was a beginner. Oh, I might not be around to speak today.
No, I'm glad I'm
Now's your
able to.
You're on with me, Patricia, CC, and of course you, Dave. But CC, if you want to talk to Dave, here's your chance.
Yeah, Dave. We spoke a while ago. I think I might have been on Roxanne's show a couple of months ago. We were, we had a nice chat, and I was listening to some of your recent videos just to see what route, where everybody's going. We first find out about flat Earth, and then we're kind of going into different routes. Investigating more of NASA, investigating more of foods and good things to eat, and So I saw your last video. It was pretty good.
I can't remember what was my last video now. Actually, was it the physicist or particle physicist debate thing?
Yeah, I saw part of that.
Actually, yeah, Mr. Thrive and Survive was in the chat room, and he said, "You rock."
Oh gosh.
Dave Rock, you've met Mr. Thrive and Survive at the convention, haven't you? Anyway.
Yes, I did. I was again, a big surprise. Didn't expect to bump into him, but yeah, amazing.
Yeah, he's a really nice person. He's Rich. He's a personal friend now, so yeah, he's great. He's been a very good support. He's helped support Sun and Moon rather a lot. But anyway, yes, carry on.
Yeah, that was an interesting debate. Again, I met the guy Pierre in the car going to the place, and he was like supremely confident. He was almost smug with it, and we got to the debate, and he got asked his first question, and he stumbled at the first question. I was like, what's going on? So yeah.
And you couldn't miss the opportunity, Dave.
It was, I thought it was a bit of a bloodbath, but but there you go. A lot of people are saying that it's because he didn't have a good command of English, and that's why he seemed to struggle. But no, he had a good command of English. He did his doctorate is in England, and he's working at a university, so you have to have a good command of English to be able to do that. And he understood what I was saying. He just didn't know how to answer the questions.
Yes, I've watched a few hangouts now when people are talking to physicists, and maybe 10, 20 years ago, we'd have thought they were interesting and sort of, oh, they're so clever. But actually now when we listen to them, they don't say anything. One of these guys was, to explain it, he said, well, you've got to go through it, out the other side, turn around, look at it, weigh it up, come back and say what it is. That's all he said. He said nothing else. And that's the kind of, we probably were, I don't know what we were listening to before, but I don't hear anything positive or proper anymore. They're just rubbish. They talk rubbish.
Yeah. There was a bit in that debate where he was fixated on, trying to figure out what the error would be, the margin for error in trying to work out, sea level. I guess you have to admit waves come up and everything, but sea level is sea level. If you're doing a calculation of the curvature, the wherever the sea is here, it's going to be the same across the river or across the channel or whatever. So yeah, he seems very fixated on this kind of error thing.
Well, that's what I get. I get a lot of people that
they don't get that, do they? So sorry, Cece. 1 second. They don't get that, do they? That it's level all the way across. But carry on, Cece.
No. That's exactly what I'm saying. Is that's the big thing with people, that to get them through that, there is no curve. There is absolutely nothing that proves that there is a curve at all whatsoever anywhere, no matter where you are, and you're not upside down. It's ludicrous when you really think about it, but people have a difficulty time doing. I mean, I have people who claim they're from the Navy, they're boat experts and this, and they say they don't see a curve, and I'm like, well, what are you looking for? Where are you looking?
Yeah, what I'm seeing is that you know, for me personally, I'm a very kind of practical type of guy. I have, you know, I see the world as something you can grab hold of and test and measure and stuff. And that's the way I'm looking at the flat Earth. I mean, I look out of the bay and yeah, it's flat. I can see it's flat. I do an experiment to check it's flat, and yeah, it seems to be flat. So what I'm faced with is people saying, well, you know what, this calculation says otherwise. Well, okay, how does this calculation relate to reality? Because I'm looking at reality here, yeah. And that's literally what we're facing. We're facing people who've been indoctrinated into believing that, you know, not only does mathematics, you know, is mathematics able to represent reality, but mathematics is reality. Yeah, so that's what we're up against.
Anyway, you know what part of it's about? I was explaining, we were just touching on this about space and stuff like that just before you came in. And it's a bit like, well, there's no pleasure cruises. It's not like lower Earth orbit, middle, whatever it is. And anyway, when you got to the one where the ISS space station, you imagine a flight. It would last about 2 seconds because it goes supposedly goes around 17.5 times a day. How could you ever fly up there? Because you'd never be able to do it, would you?
Yeah, yeah. I'm a bit stuck on that idea that they're going 17,500 miles an hour. No. I mean, one of the other things is when they say that things burn up in the atmosphere. You know, something coming back into the atmosphere will burn up. Well, if you go to YouTube, you'll find video of the space shuttle dropping its external tank. Now, I was always told that, you know, when the space shuttle drops its external tank, it actually burns up in the atmosphere and, you know, nothing reaches the ground. But that's not true.
No, it's not. It's not. And they go retrieve it, too. Actually, they show you pictures of the retrieved tank that they get. That's another thing, too, that it should burn up, but it doesn't.
If it's a burn coming back, how come isn't it a burn going out then?
That's quite an interesting question. Well, the way they say that it basically hits the atmosphere, you know, at such a speed that the atmosphere causes sudden friction, and you know, but these days I think we just heard some news story that says the moon is in the Earth's atmosphere. So.
Yeah, well.
So none of that makes any sense now, you know. So with that story about the moon being in the Earth's atmosphere, you know, that's when you have to start talking about atmospheric drag. You know, if there's any atmosphere and a moon is moving around in it, then it will have to be necessarily slowing down, no matter how little air there may be. Yeah, there's still going to be some atmospheric drag and friction, and the moon is going to start to slow down and fall to the Earth. Why isn't it not doing that?
Yeah, and that's through the scientists. That's what they say. I mean, you know, that's and a lot of Hollywood movies depict that too. There was actually one movie made specifically because of something falling toward the Earth. I think it was Space Cowboys. The name of that movie, and they had to go retrieve this satellite, you know, because it was in orbit and it was collapsing, you know, it was deteriorating, and would splash down. Turns out, you know, there were nuclear bombs in there or something. But anyway, I mean, yeah, and that's exactly, you know.
Well, and this is the other thing. I mean, everyone looks at you know, being in orbit and being weightless. There is no actual weightlessness. You know, it's not that there is no weight. Yeah, they have to call it microgravity because gravity's still there. It's just that they're supposedly, you know, falling to the Earth and missing the Earth because of the curve. So they're doing the 0G plane thing. That's the idea. But it doesn't make sense. None of it actually makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I've kind of lost the point I was going with
Just
that.
for,
But
just for the
That's
chat
what
room,
happens.
Dave.
I do it all the time.
Where's this story being reported for the chat room? Where
sorry,
are they
say that again.
Just for the chat room, where are they reporting the story about the moon in the Earth's atmosphere? Then
I don't know. I saw it sort of come up on Facebook. Hang on, I'm gonna
Yeah, I haven't
I'm just
seen it
gonna
on
check.
YouTube.
Yeah, I'm just gonna check it. Moon in Earth's atmosphere. Okay. Okay. Apparently, it's the Soho observations.
Soho. Oh my.
Yeah. I don't know who's actually claiming it, but yeah, there's loads of stories. If you just put into Google "moon in Earth's atmosphere," you find loads of stories. It was in the Independent as well. They reported it in the newspapers as well. So yeah, it's now a thing. So the moon is in Earth's atmosphere, which
Yay! It
Hey,
is,
excellent.
because it
Beautiful.
really is.
so is it that they're releasing the flat Earth slowly, a piece at a time? It sounds like that's what they're doing.
I would say so too. Why would they ever release anything like that? And what's their purpose? What's their agenda by even putting that out there? Especially, So yeah, no, they all have an agenda with this, and I don't know where they're going with it. But that would make that would be the only conceivable explanation I could think of why they would bring that up, is to maybe finally get into flat Earth. I don't know.
Well, I
Don't you
think
think
one thing we've
NASA
got
should
to
be quite worried? Don't you think NASA should be quite worried today? Then makes them look stupid, doesn't it?
Oh, exactly. Oh, by far. I mean, everything is. NASA makes this whole thing look even more ridiculous each day. They still can't put a camera and point it out. They still can't give a full revolution of the Earth. They still haven't put a camera on the moon so we can see. For Iran, they've done nothing. They've done none of this.
well, that as well. The point is that there's been a couple of other supposed moon landings. Is it the Russians and the Chinese have done it apparently?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about that too.
So why haven't they put a 5K camera looking back at the Earth?
Yeah, it's not only us. Absolutely, I agree. Why haven't they done it? I mean, it's not just us.
I'll tell you why. Because they can't.
Because they can't. Exactly.
It's not there. But but yet nobody ever calls it out. They believe it.
I think it's really ridiculous as well, isn't it? Because they've got us pointing up, they've got space, they've got us going to Mars, they've got that stupid Tesla car, they've got all that, and yet actually nearly everything we can prove from the place we live on. We can prove it from here. We don't pretend that we're going somewhere else.
Yeah, well, one of the smoking guns really is that they've been putting off this space tourism for something like 40 years now. Ever since the moon landing, the supposed moon landing, they've been saying, oh, soon in the next 10 years we'll have space tourism, and it just keeps being pushed backwards and pushed backwards.
Hey Dave, do you remember when we were little? Space 1999.
I used to love that show.
Absolutely, me too.
And UFO.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that we've got to the point now where most of these science fiction things we used to watch and grew up with, we've actually passed the date that they were set in. Just like Back to the Future was set back in 2015. The future, and they had flying cars and all this, this technology and stuff. Yeah, and we didn't even have bloody Nike boots that laced up by themselves.
Yeah, and they just came out with that too, right, for 2015 because of the movie.
Yeah,
and they came out. Yeah, so I mean. Yeah, none of the stuff that they've done with technology has gotten they're really off on Hollywood with technology. They think we should be much more advanced, and I agree we should. I mean, we should be.
But you know what I mean. Part of it as well is that they won't allow us to have real technology because I mean, look what sort of damage we've been able to do with a computer. Yeah.
Yeah, we're able to talk now.
Well, that's not the real issue. You know, from their point of view, with the technology we've had for the last 30 years. We've decimated the TV industry. We've decimated the music industry, because now we can share music and share TV and make our own content, and we're killing those industries. Yeah, so they've literally capped the amount of power we've got available to us in these computers. When I was in a programmer, we had Moore's law, which meant that computers basically doubled in power every 18 months. And sure enough, back in, I think it was like 1993-ish, I was given, because I worked for BT, I was given like the most powerful computer on the planet. It had the biggest hard disk, which was something like 512 megabytes or gigabytes, sorry. And they told me I'm never likely to fill that up in my lifetime.
Yeah, right. We've done that on pictures and videos just alone on our smartphones now.
Yeah, and it was a Pentium P90, which is like, now it would be like it's less powerful than an iPhone, but this was the most powerful machine on the planet apparently, and by the time they delivered it to me, there was something even faster. So we were living in that time where every 18 months we had computers that were just doubling in power, faster than you can keep up. But then Dave, all of a sudden it stopped.
Yeah, Dave, and also what's being it's the memory cards now that they seem to be exploding, because whereas I couldn't get a terabyte for less than $300 5 years ago, now you get one. They have them all over Best Buy and all the computer shops. You can get these, but yeah, we have been suppressed with so much, and people don't seem to understand that the technology that we were advancing so quickly from the 60s, 70s, and the 80s.
Also, fiber optics, they are amazed. That stuff's amazing and has masses and masses of capability, which take years to understand that stuff. Yeah,
they just refitted our entire block for fiber optics. They just ripped up the sidewalks and installed all that and connected to all the buildings now. Verizon, that's all Verizon's working off of, is fiber optics. And yeah.
It goes a bit deeper than that because... back in 1910-ish, electric cars were outpacing petrol cars. So the electric cars are way more efficient. But it was literally the Rockefellers, David Rockefeller, who basically killed the electric car because he was obviously he'd cornered the market in petrol, in oil, with Standard Oil, and electric cars threatened his monopoly, and they also created this idea that oil came from dead animals in the ground, which is
from the dinosaurs.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, saying it's a fossil fuel and saying it's dead dinosaurs. No, this is something that the Earth produces, and it will never run out. That's why back in the 80s they said, "Oh, it's all going to run out. All the oil's running out," and we've hit peak oil.
When you think that it's supposed to be dinosaurs, dead dinosaurs, it sounds stupid, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely it does. But I was going to say that.
No, I was just going. We believed it. That's the thing. We believed it. We didn't have any reason not to believe them.
They also came out an electric car in the 80s. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. It was an ugly looking thing, but that, that did very well, and they recalled all of them, and people had to fight to try to keep these cars back because they were all leased. and you signed a waiver at the beginning of your purchase saying, if we decide to, take this vehicle from you, we're allowed to do that. And that's exactly what they did. They destroyed them all because we were headed. I mean, 2 times now we were headed to electricity. Back in the 20s, back into the and then in the 80s. And now they came out with a Tesla and let that come out, but it's a $150,000 car. They have a cheaper one, but I mean, who's gonna? Most people live in apartments. Where am I going to charge that thing?
Yeah, well, that's not the first time either, because I seem to remember that in England we had the mini metro, and one of the biggest selling points was that it would do 80 miles to the gallon, and everybody was like amazed. But then all of a sudden, no, it doesn't anymore. And I don't know if it's a Mandela effect, but now I can't find any reference to 80 miles to the gallon about it. And I think there was something else. I don't know if you come across the HHO generators. Essentially, they're like you put electrodes in water and it produces, you power it up and it produces hydrogen and oxygen gas. And
I heard about that,
you can, yeah. Well, we consider it a new thing because essentially that really started kicking off back in, I guess, the early 90s, maybe late 90s. People started making these generators. But I think I spoke to some or heard about this old woman who was shown this HHO generator, which people used to put in their cars and, to extend the their mileage. And it would do something like 20%, maybe 30%. Would it, mileage increase?
More efficiency. Okay.
Yeah, because literally you're supplementing the petrol with this gas vapor or this gas, and it was kind of adding to the range.
Where'd that go? Disappeared.
This old lady was shown one of those HHO generators, and she said, "Oh yeah, well, I recognise that. My job after the end of the war was to strip those things out of Jeeps. So back in the war they had HHO generators, which they were using for wartime, and after the war ended they stripped them out so that people couldn't use them." Sorry,
I don't doubt that at all. And there's a lot of things that they had in the war that is far more advanced than we have right now, especially with the vehicles.
Disappointing with
combustible engine.
the energy and the electricity, because it wasn't just one car or one company. There was loads of them making these electric trucks and cars. Batteries lasted hours and hours. They could get them to about 80, 90 miles an hour or something, these cars, and it's like, wow.
Well, have you ever heard of the WASP, the Williams X-Jet? They would call it the flying pulpit.
There's something that rings a bell on that. I'm going to come across something on there.
Right. Well, it was literally this thing. It looked like a pulpit. Yeah. You stand at it, and I think you had a couple of handles, and literally it would take off vertically, and you would just use your weight by leaning in the direction you wanted to go, and it would fly. It would literally take it. It was very safe. It wasn't, it's not like these whenever they do these jet packs, sometimes you have accidents and stuff, and this thing was really safe. And I was thinking, well, how can it be safe? This is essentially a jet engine that's turned upwards. And how could it possibly be safe? But I realized the jet engine is is a rotary. He's got a rotary turbine shaft. Well, that gives you the gyroscope effect. So it won't tip over because it's literally gyroscopically held upright. And so this thing was, I think it was designed in the 70s. It's either the 70s or the 90s. I can't remember. But it would fly for half an hour, and just go up to something crazy like 5,000 feet if you wanted to. Not that I'd want to, in something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. That would have been neat if that came out. Could you imagine?
Yes,
I get a feeling that the First and Second World War were all about destroying our infrastructure and Europe's infrastructure, that we were actually going that way and then being destroyed, we had to start again.
That's a good point, that the world wars could have done that. Yeah.
No, there was a bit more to the world wars. It was and this is going to a different topic. There was some stuff that I found out about World War One, and what happened to Russia and what happened to Germany. A lot of it was about sweeping away the last black native Germans and black Russians, because I was finding photographs of the Russian army, for instance, were like battalions of black people who were native Russians.
That's interesting.
Really?
I didn't look into that. Yeah.
Yes. And Germany was actually divided into very many separate nation states, and literally there were some black nation states and there were some white nation states. And it turns out there was a conference to decide how to carve up Africa. And, one of the problems with that is that, it was called the Berlin Conference. And, we're thinking, well, if there were some, if Germany was black, then how come they were part of this deal to carve up Africa? And it turns out that it was only the white nation states that were part of the conference, and none of the black nation states or the countries that were still predominantly black, none of them took part in this conference. So World War one of the goals of it was literally to get rid of the last indigenous black people.
Now, World War II.
Another lie.
Yeah, well, it doesn't end. I mean, it's just so much of it. It's all of our history has been complete. Is wrong, that we know, that we learned at school. There's nothing. Nothing.
I was just thinking about this earlier on. Imagine if you wrote a story and it was like a fictional place like Narnia. Yeah. You can write and design this whole society and this whole fantasy world. But what if you did that and you had $500 trillion to spend? Yeah, you wouldn't just leave it as a story. You might want to make that fantasy world real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and this is what they've done essentially. These people have got all this money. Got nothing better to do. What would you do if you had $500 trillion and you had all the toys that you could ever have? What's left for you?
Yeah, and that's something that people should understand too. I mean, there's a reason why all of these 1% of us have all the money in the entire world and running it and the process, and they're telling us what to do. They're telling the media what to do. They own the media. They own everything. And it's not just this country; it's worldwide. And that's what we're living in.
Yeah, the point though is that money is a technology that was given to them, and they run it. So I was in Hungary, and it was a few years ago, and I was being shown around, and then it was a rich place. It was a fertile place. It was lots of things were growing there, and it was a really nice place. But they consider themselves a poor country. Why are they poor? It's because they haven't got enough Rothschild slave tokens. They've not been allocated enough. Yeah, and that's when you look around the world, you'll see that the rich countries are the ones with the least Rothschild credit notes. Yeah, but they've got all the resources. They've got all the, all the minerals, and they've got land, arable land and everything. But they're kept poor because the only definition of poor is when you don't have enough of these slave tokens that are issued by one family.
Yeah.
It's a mind game.
Well, that's that's happening to the U.S. too. I mean, they're importing a lot of immigrants here that do not have any skills at all whatsoever, and they're going to be doing one thing and one thing only, and that's going to be slave jobs, and that's what they want.
Steve, can I just say your microphone's clicking rather a lot? Sorry.
Oh, mine?
Yeah.
Hold on one sec. Let me see. Let me take it out and put it back in.
It's when you put it back in, it just has this constant sort of noise happening.
Yeah.
How is it now? Any better, or is it still clicking?
No. Can I just suggest that when you're not talking, maybe mute when you're not talking. When you're talking, obviously unmute, but it does make quite a lot of noise. I think the chat room can hear it as well.
Yeah, I'll put it on mute when I.
Sorry, carry on. Finish what you were saying though.
No, I mean, that's what all the politicians and everybody, you're bringing in people into the country just who really have no skills at all, and when you do that, what's going to happen? Where are they going to go? What kind of jobs are they going to get? And it's almost like they have just turned everybody into slaves. Everywhere, I mean, we're here just barely making it paycheck to paycheck, just barely able to stay afloat, afford our place, and that's what they want. They got it. They have won in terms of that. It's us who are flat earthers that know what the real truth is, that are trying to find other means, shall we say, of making this green. That is the most important thing, because without it, you can't do anything.
Well, you're kind of missing, I think, the most important part of this worldwide migrant crisis. Yeah. The truth about it is it's not a crisis, and it's not happening by accident. It's no accident that not only is it happening, you've got a migrant crisis in America, but you've got one in the whole of Europe. You've got one in Britain as well. You've actually got one in Australia as well, It's not a crisis. This is deliberate, and it's not about money. It's not about jobs. It's not about anything as prosaic as that. The real truth is that the populations in Western countries has been falling through the floor. Yeah, there's literally they're beyond the point of no return. I think it was 2013, maybe 15, I can't remember, when the tipping point, basically hit, where most states, the white population has basically, I think it's more white people are dying than being born. So, even though the numbers have been are being manipulated, because they'll never tell you what the true figures are. The populations in all these countries has gone past the point of no return. They're not coming back. Especially China as well. China is out for sure, because they've had that policy of one child per family for I can't remember now, it's maybe nearly 30 years or something. Plus you add that with the cultural sort of idea that that boys are more favored than girls, because obviously boys can go out and work and work the fields and stuff like that. So there's the propensity for families to want boys, and having one child per family. Well, the children of that policy, when it first came in, well, they're now reaching marriageable age, and there aren't any women around for them anymore. So you've got millions of Chinese men who will never find a Chinese wife, because there literally aren't any there left, or there's hardly any left.
Yeah, so that's what they obviously want this, don't they? Because they keep wanting to bring the population down. I've got two things to add, by the way. I've seen that they advertise what you can get if you come and live here: a house, education. You know, you get all the things that people who live here aren't entitled to. So that's if you're an immigrant coming in, they're advertising for people to come in. You're right. And the other thing as well is that this is the way I've kind of I've been obviously watching this from before, right? Before I was a flat earther, but watching someone, and they was basically saying that it's a form of, it's how they want to do things. We basically, you want immigrants with nothing to come to your country, because then they don't devalue the currency. And then also they need to eat, sleep, work. So they're bolstering the economy. So it's another reason why you ask lots of people with nothing to come here to bolster the economy, because the economies are doing. It's another way of covering up how bad the economy's doing and stuff.
Yeah, they don't care about the economy really. At the end of the day, I mean, there's layers of this truth, yeah. And you know, the economy is one of the the excuse layers, yeah. So you know, people can look at it and go, oh yeah, I understand that one, yeah. But literally, they're encouraging people from especially the Middle East to come over, and you know, they're enticing them over so that they will mix with the population, and they're keeping the racism going, and they're even sort of pushing that up a bit so that you can maintain the divide between them. And eventually you'll end up with a new batch of white people. That's literally what it's for.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you on that. And that's the whole thing, is to keep us divided, keep everybody divided, everyone,
yes,
all over. And if they continue doing
we all
that,
hate each other. We all don't like each other, but we don't know why anymore.
Exactly. Whether our president's black, whether our president's white, whether people constantly bickering and fighting about this nonsense that just means nothing, as much as a football game means to to me. It's that's what it's there to do. And the press is always, the media, always, they feed onto this. They don't tell you good things. All they do is they tell you bad things, and that's to keep us scared, and divided. Like what Dave was saying with China. I know that in particular because there's a whole generation that has been destroyed. They took that rule out. Now you can have as many kids as you want, but there is a generation of male boys who don't have any. There's a whole generation of women that's gone. They are either going to date somebody who's who's 30 years old and they're in their 20s, or they're going to have to go out of the country. So China has destroyed a whole generation of females.
They've destroyed their whole. They've destroyed the whole population, really, because they're not coming back. They, as you say, they have to go outside of their country now, and you'll find that's what they're doing. The Chinese are essentially invading Africa at the moment and the Caribbean, and some of that is to find mates for their men, because they're not going to find them in China.
Yeah, and so there we go. They got what they wanted there. If they wanted that to happen, who knows? But everything is done for a reason.
Yeah,
it's horrible. It's horrible, this whole thing. This, and sometimes I sit there and I just think, this is just abominable what they've done. Just absolutely abominable.
It's true. It sounds very nasty and everything, but you know what? This is a game we're playing. Essentially, it's a game with consequences, but it's a game. People take their lives so seriously. Yeah, they're in a 9-to-5 job and they've got a house, or they've got mortgage payments and all that, and they're taking it really seriously. That this is what you've got to do, and if you don't do it, then you lose, and it's terrible and everything. No, you're taking it too seriously, Yeah, there's nothing to tell you that you can't just go off and do something completely different. Of course, society tells you, no, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't go off and do something different. You know, you shouldn't go and live in the woods, or you shouldn't, you know, build yourself a tree house and live in that. We're in a playground. Yeah,
Well,
this
you
world
have,
is.
because you're not even in England, are you? You've
No,
gone off.
I'm not. But I don't live in a house, and I don't play in the system. You know, because you don't have to. Of course, the society will tell you have to, and there's all these things that you have to do. But you know, the truth is, you don't. You've got freedom in this playground, this wonderful playground where anything is possible. Literally, anything you want to do is possible here, except those people in charge have used that power to limit everybody else's options. Yeah, but it's their control is an illusion. And if you step out of that illusion, you realize that, you know what, you can do anything in this world. And it's just your mind that's been controlled by these people that is limiting you and stopping you from doing what it is you want to do. So, yeah, sorry, I've just gone off on a tangent.
No, I mean, I admire people who go off the grid, and I myself have thought about doing that. Unfortunately, the situation that I'm in with having a daughter and her going to school, and I mean, this is why I sent her to Catholic school. First off, I definitely didn't want to go to a public school. She's got to go to school, at least go there, and she's getting a.
But that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Yeah, you've just listed a few things that you have to do. Right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to do that. It's just that people are saying, no, your daughter has to go to school. Well, why? You know, why couldn't you, go off somewhere and live with your family and homeschool her, right? You don't. There's this whole load of things that we've been told that have been put on us and said, you have to do things this way, But if you, and I've said this before, if you do all the things that you supposedly have to do, then you'll get to the end of your life and you'll be on your deathbed realizing that you haven't actually lived. You've just been doing things that somebody else says you have to do.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. You're absolutely right, and that's why they have these areas that we live in. Like in the area that I live in, you have to go through the system. I mean, and that's what everybody is, and that's why everybody is pretty much zombies here, and that's why I have a difficult time living around here, because there really are no people to wake up around here. And I've tried. I'm not saying they're not out there, but we don't have like a speaker's corner, here where I live. I mean, you have parks. And mostly, or you have Times Square in the city, and Times Square is a good place, and I've been down there, but mostly Times Square are all tourists from all over the world. You're not going to get really locals that go there. But yeah, no, I mean, that's the area that I live in, unfortunately, is just really indoctrinated to a point where it's hard to see and hard to live in.
But most of us live in places just like that. We're surrounded by muggles who don't see the world, as it really is. And most of us literally have nobody to talk to about these things. And you say there isn't a speaker's corner. Well, make one. Start standing up and saying something. In the middle of a park. Say, I know it's tough because. Nobody wants to be the nutter, but you never know what comes from it.
Well, yeah, exactly, and the parks are an excellent place to take advantage of, which I can. And all I got to do is I don't even have to say anything. I just get a chair, get a banner, and sit down and wait. I have a personalized plate in my car. People, not a lot, but they do come up to me occasionally, and just ask why you believe that, and then I'll throw them a couple of cards, and give them what I can. But it's it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. I take much respect.
You just can't make anybody, can you? Got to get there themselves, don't they?
Yeah. I'm actually working on something that I hope will start waking a few people up as well. I call it the Muggle test, and you can have a look at the basic version of it. It's on my website. It's just at the moment there's I've just put the test up there. I haven't put all the stuff in it, but you go to give you the website. It's www.allegedlydave.com/muggle.htm. Yeah. So it will literally take you to this page, explain about the Muggle test, and at the bottom there's a two-field form which doesn't work, so don't bother with putting your name and the email address in. But you click the Start Test button, and it will just give you 10 questions, and you just they're like what do you call it when you just choose from a set of options?
Multiple choice.
Multiple choice, yeah. So it will just give you a score and say, at the moment it'll just give you, you got 2 out of 10 or whatever. But what I'm basically going to do is that I'm working on this right now. Actually, is that when you answer a question wrong, at the end of the test, it will email you with an explanation why you got the question wrong, and then give you a couple of YouTube videos for you to go and watch about that topic. So you can learn from it, and maybe go back and take the test again and find out where else you need to figure out. Maybe and also there's also a section I'm going to put in where you can actually nominate somebody and send the test to them, and you'll also get a notification of how they did.
That's interesting. I like that. And I like the fact that you can, you're putting the videos in there. You're selecting them, not having Google select them for you, because Google, it comes up with all sorts of notifications when people go into the search engines and type in flat Earth or, why do people, you've got to sift through quite a bit of nonsense now to even get to a feasible video that's going to be able to explain, to even give you the correct. I have difficulty time finding even the curvature. Where I was able to get that was the first selection that would come up on Google. Now, I don't even see it. I have to go through like 5 or 6 other, almost, well, not pages, but at least onto the second page sometimes to get even the curvature calculation. And none of it's being taught in school either. I don't remember ever learning it. And if I did, it was very quickly, and that was it. There's no science teacher that came up to me and said, here, this is the curvature of the Earth. This is how fast we're spinning. This is how far away the moon is. That was never really brought out to me at all. I don't remember ever learning it. But and my daughter hasn't learned it. She doesn't know anything about the curvature. They love showing them the solar system, but they even have them putting it together. Every school does it.
Where do you hear at school that people are learning about the rotation of the Earth and everything? And it's this speed here and this speed there, and this is what happens, and blah 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 blah. They don't learn any of that, do they?
No, but they do know there's a face on Mars. They do know how many planets that we have, and they know exactly how the solar system works, and that the sun is in the middle of the solar system. Yeah, they all know that, but they don't know the facts about our Earth. And that's peculiar. I would think that would be one of the first things that they would teach children, is our planet. And since we don't live on one, but I mean, that's what they should be doing instead of the nonsense that they have out in space. But I could be wrong. But I just find it peculiar that was never taught to anybody, as far as I know.
Yeah, I'm thinking back now, and I'm realizing that I think I got all these numbers about how far the sun is away, and from television. Maybe that is what has happened. I don't know.
I think you're right, because I don't remember. I remember learning about the speed of light. I remember learning about that. I remember learning about the planets, but I never remember learning about any basic foundation of what we are supposed that we live on. And that information is kind of just not, I don't know what the agenda is with the teachers, because I know they have to go through a strict guideline of what they teach. And they can't go beyond that, else they're going to lose their job. And that's bottom line. So they're just robots too, feeding all this weather. They think they know the earth is flat, and they don't, but it doesn't make a difference. They're robots, and they've got this curriculum. Same thing, every class. I mean, the teacher leaves. I remember in college, in my professor, all the stuff that we learned in the class.
How boring is it for children to stand to have a class where every lesson the teacher's got their back to them and they're just writing on a blackboard and they've got to write it down? How boring is that?
And that's what it's made to be, because that's why, if you don't make it through school and become successful through that, you become basically nothing, and that's the way it's been made. And as Dave said, you don't have to go through that, I mean, that's the truth.
When I left school, I had a whole load of, what they call GCSEs, and I got an A level, and I got a couple of CSEs, which are lower grade type things. Nobody has ever asked me for those. Nobody ever bothered to say, well, how many qualifications did you get? I mean, how many GCSEs have you got? Have you got an A level in something? Nobody's ever asked me that. So what was it there for? What was the point of it? There was no point in it. It was literally an indoctrination program that you felt you had to do because otherwise you wouldn't get a good job. Yeah. But literally you submitted to this indoctrination, and it didn't matter. It was just there to shape your view of the world. I'm going to have to go and switch the light on because it's going to get very dark very soon. It does that over here.
So you're 4 hours. So you're 6:30.
Yes. So I'm just going to have to switch the light on. Otherwise, you won't see me anymore. All right.
I'll see you. But yeah, I know what you mean. Cece, I've sent a message. Cece, when you're not talking, please mute. When this hangout's finished, play it back. You'll hear this sort of noise coming through.
I'm wondering why, because I'm not using the other microphone that I have that I got with this phone. I'm actually using this. Came with my other Note 8.
Sometimes they do that though. Sometimes I've got 2 sets of earphones, and one set people are going, I can't hear you, Karen. Just the way some of them go, isn't it? Yeah,
I'm gonna go out and get truthfully, I want to get a laptop, and unfortunately, when you do the live shows, because our time difference, I'm either getting out of work or I'm still working. I usually quit right at around 6 my time, so that would be pretty late for you. We're talking, almost 11 o'clock.
You can come on and hang out at that time if you want, Cece. Later on, another day if you want, we get you that way.
Yeah, no, I don't want to keep you up. I mean,
it's just everybody can hear it. It doesn't stop.
That's weird. Well, I'm going to have to go anyway because I got to finish up my job. But I wanted to say something to Dave what he was mentioning before.
Sure.
Yeah. With the educational system, with the kids. Back in the early 80s and the 70s, a college degree was kind of more of what is equivalent to like a master's degree now. Back then, it was like if you got a college degree, you could still do fairly well. Now it's to the next level where these kids either have to go the extra yard and get into another $45,000 of debt, or $80,000 in some cases, on top of their 4-year bachelor's degree, which means now that they're swimming in this $250,000, $275,000 in debt, which is average for most of the students. If they continue with a master's degree, that's a hell of a lot of money for a young kid who's 24, 25. Now, sometimes the company will pay for that. Most of them don't. And you still have that debt, and you're still swimming in it. And right there, you're locked in. Right when you're 20 years old, that's it. Locked in. You've got a $500,000 debt on top of your head, and you are off and running to go pay this debt off. And it takes years sometimes. So it's there for a reason, and you don't need half of it most of the time.
I think they call that educational inflation. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I actually remember years and years ago when I was a kid playing the game of life. You anyone ever play that?
Yeah, that was right there with Monopoly. As I used to play with my
Right.
mom.
And there was a moment in that game, and I remember it really clearly, where I had to make a decision. Right, on the board, there was a kind of fork in the road, and one way was to go off to college, and the other way was to go off and get a job. And I remember it really clearly playing that game and thinking, you know what? Why should I go and go off to college and not earn anything for a long time, and and then eventually get a better job? Or I could go off down this way and start working, and right away and build up a career. So I always chose to go down the work route. And I remember later on when I actually I was at sort of the point where I was offered places in university for art. I was like, should I go off to university and spend 4 years learning how to do a job, or should I just go out and get the job? And I realized I was back playing the game of life again. So I went down the job route, and you know what? It was it was the right decision, because it's a fake, it's a fraud. No one really needs university and college and all this stuff. I realized that when I left school, I started learning more after I left school than I ever did at school, because the whole educational system isn't about helping you to learn anything. Really, it's just it's there to put you in a box. It's to limit your knowledge, limit your awareness, focus your your abilities. Yes. And if you go on to university, it fine tunes and focuses your awareness and your abilities even further. You do a master's degree and it's even narrower. So when I started working at British Telecom, I actually joined this group which was all graduates. I was the only non-graduate in the whole place. And after the first week, I thought I was in over my head, all these, incredibly brainy people. But after about a month or so, they're all coming to me and asking me how to do stuff. And I ended up getting sort of promoted wildly, whereas everybody else was, doing 2 years here and then 2 years here and then getting promoted and doing another couple. I was just like shooting off, because it turned out that all these graduates couldn't think in the way I was thinking. They were literally so channeled into one particular way of thinking that literally they didn't have any common sense, and didn't have the this idea that that's an obvious way of doing things.
You didn't compute to the theory they'd been given.
Exactly. There's, as far as they were concerned, there was only one way to do things, and there's no point in even thinking about any other way. So it again, the whole educational process narrowed their thinking and narrowed their mode of thought to see things in one way, and they lost their flexibility in that way. So that's why I've got no respect for the educational system whatsoever.
Oh, I don't think any of us have much respect for any of that anymore once you know what it is.
And that's the whole society we're living in. It's all, again, it's this idea that very rich people, have designed a fantasy world, and they've got the money to make it.
I have to say, I've noticed something though, and Cece touched on it earlier on. We don't really want to be in this globe world, and actually, I think it's beginning to eject us, reject us out, because nobody's got this wonderful, perfect life in the globe life, because we were trying to reject it.
Yeah, and that's the important part about it, is that my whole look on life right now is much different. Now that I know it's what it is, and and the educational system really it steals your soul, basically. I mean, it takes away everything that you could have become, and it's forcing you to do something you don't want to become, and that's money hungry and constantly fighting and competing. And that's one of the main reasons why I never really understood sports. I never really got into it, even before Flat Earth. I just never really was. It never interested me, and now with Flat Earth, I look at it as the plague. I mean, I couldn't go near it. Just the mere having it in the background in a restaurant annoys me. To even see people.
Well, everything's the wrong way round, isn't it? You were learning basically back again that not that we should have known this anyway, and a lot of us do know it, but raw things are much better than cooked things. And what have we been doing? Putting things in the microwave. It just gets even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially when you realise that the microwave, is designed to harm you. It's designed to harm the food. Make the food. Harmful in some way. The way it restructures water, so it's almost poisonous. I don't know if you've done that experiment with the microwave water, to water plants with.
Yeah, it kills them.
Yeah, literally kills them. So what's it doing to us? But what I'm trying to say is that, they could easily make a microwave that didn't harm you. Yeah. You can do the same thing with microwaves. You can do it with ultrasonics, ultrasonic sound. Yeah, you can heat water up and stuff, but they don't do that. They use this device and secretly harm you. They can make a phone that doesn't harm you, but they made this device that you feel you have to use, and it harms you.
Yeah, and that's where people with cancer, all these medical problems. That's where they're coming. I can't tell you how many times I see people who are perfectly healthy jogging down the street, and then all of a sudden develop cancer out of nowhere, where there is absolutely no history of it in their family at all. I mean, yeah, no, they're not. I mean, and these fast food restaurants. Oh man, I mean, I'll tell you, they're killers. And being probably one of the most harmful food out there is right there for a buck, and people buy it. So yeah, it really is bad. And I'm sorry guys, this patient's ready. I want to go home too.
It's been great chatting with you again.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. This was terrific.
Right,
I wanted to spend some more time with you and Dave and Patricia too. But yeah, let me know. When you guys come back on. Definitely.
We will always invite you, Cece.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, my darling.
All
and
right,
happy working.
Oh yeah, Karen. I mean, please.
Sorry, you just want to go home, don't you?
No. I hate this. I mean, this job is just, forget it. It's just something I'm doing right now for the time being. At this, I mean, this is not going to be. I have some things working out that I think can go where I don't have to go through the system anymore. And we're all trying to find something. Some of us have found it, some of us haven't. I just happen to be one of them who hasn't found it yet, but I will. I want to get that P1000. Come on, I'm getting my check ready to write that thing out so I can get that camera. But all right, I'll let you all talk. Patricia, is she there? Patricia, I don't know if she's there.
I'm here.
Okay, nice talking to you, Patricia. Karen, as always, I love it.
Yeah, thank you, my darling.
And you too, CC.
Thank you. Big hug.
You're great. Excellent work.
Talk to you again.
Hey.
I guess I'd like to touch on something that Cece brought up actually. He talked about cancer. Is that right? Is that okay to go on at that?
Go for it, Dave.
Yeah, because a few years ago I did a radio show where I was talking about cancer and the research that I've done, which was actually researching, which was actually looking at the research that other doctors have done, and And basically, I had sort of most of the pieces of the puzzle about how cancer worked. There were 3 doctors, and between them, they nearly had the whole thing worked out. And in this talk, I basically added a 4th doctor, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and basically added, what he had to say. But what I didn't realize at the time was that Bruce Lipton had the 4th piece of the puzzle. And, it kind of made sense. The whole thing made sense. It was only when I went back to it and listened to it, I realized that the whole mechanism of cancer was right there. And literally, it turns out that cancer is a biological weapon. And it's a very clever one, because it's a 4-part biological weapon. And if you haven't got all 4 parts in your life, then you're not going to get cancer. As soon as you get that 4th part, then you will get cancer.
It's a disease by design.
Yes. It's, but it's been designed by people, obviously the people with money and the power to shape society. But it's literally 4 things. And if you don't have all 4, you're not going to get it. Right. So that's why.
I think that we're just one dirty, great experiment for them.
Yes, this is what this society is. It's an experiment, or at least there's a time aspect that they've been experimenting for. I think the 20th century was the experimental phase. So there was a learning phase and an experimental phase, and the 21st century is the implementation phase. So starting with 9/11, 2001, that was when everything started being implemented. But as I said, cancer, 4 things. The first thing is you have to have an acidic body chemistry. So it's no accident that all processed foods, all foods you can get, well, let's say 99% of what you'll find in the supermarket is acidic or acid forming in the body. So most people can't help but have an acidic body chemistry. So, and that's the prerequisite for cancer. Second of all, you have to have injured yourself in some way, because what happens when you injure yourself, your body produces estrogen and pumps estrogen to the site of the injury, so it helps in the healing process. The third thing is that you have to be bathed in an an electromagnetic soup, a harmful electrosmog, basically.
What do you mean, like the 5G stuff and stuff like that?
Not just 5G, but Wi-Fi and those DECT phones, those cordless phones. Even the frequency coming from your electricity, the 50 hertz or 60 hertz if you're in America. It's an electromagnetic frequency. But the 4th part that Bruce Lipton supplied was that in the talk that I put in my radio show, Bruce Lipton said, you have to be stressed to be affected by this electromagnetic radiation. So when you're bathed in this electromagnetic radiation, right, it can only affect you if you're stressed, right? And he said that as soon as you get stressed, the electromagnetic radiation alters your hormones, especially estrogen. So that was a missing piece. So what happens is, okay, if you have an acidic body chemistry, right? So your body's all ready to get cancer. If you injure yourself by, let's say, smoking a cancer stick, you're injuring your lungs, your body is now flooding your lung area with estrogen to try and repair it. But if you're stressed in an electromagnetic sort of radiation area, then the estrogen alters itself, and it starts causing stem cells to turn into cancer cells. In fact, they're not actually cancer cells; they're actually the cells that will be produced if a woman was pregnant, and the cells start constructing the womb wall. But in this situation, those cells, the stem cells, start to become those, and that's cancer. These cells start growing out of control, and your body responds to try and stop it, and essentially you manifest the symptoms of cancer. So it's like a 4-part biological weapon. So if you smoke 50 a day, or 2 people smoke 50 cigarettes a day, right, one of them will get cancer, the one who's got all 4, and the other one won't. He could smoke as many as he likes, he won't get it. And the difference could be that he's he's upbeat and positive, and he's not stressed. He doesn't get stressed.
The whole program they put us in is about stress, though, isn't it? So they've got us believing that it was so bad, the depressions, the wars. Then you watch the television, and you've got the future looks really bleak. And then right now they're breaking families up, the subversion, the lies. There's no time to think. There's no time to be. You don't know who you are. And then you're watching Jeremy Kyle. That's the same as like Jerry Springer kind of thing. You're watching that. You're watching the news, a documentary, soap operas. Nothing is nice, is it? And so stress.
And even if you don't get stressed by that, back in the days when it was analog TV, you would catch them putting subliminals in the in the TV programs, in the adverts, and in regular periods, and there would be things like pictures of skeletons or skulls and whatever, to actually that your subconscious will pick up, even if your conscious mind doesn't pick it up. A skull, an image of death would flash up, and you wouldn't see it, but your subconscious will pick it up, and all of a sudden you'll get stress hormones. So that was when analog TV was around. Now they've got digital. They must be doing it in a much more sophisticated manner.
But your life changes when you turn the television off, doesn't it? I mean, that is one big change that doesn't, well, it's just have to learn to do different things than watch. I've got some lovely in-laws still that I go and see, and they just have to watch everything, watch the television.
Well, it's not a question you have to. Sorry, it's not a question you have to learn to live without it. Yeah, if you turn that thing off and throw it out, right, then you come back. Yeah, your likes and your habits, and not habits, but more things you like doing, and your enjoyments start coming back, and
you start to think. You start to think again. It's amazing on what you were just talking about, though. Yeah, it makes sense, really, because it is a program. It's all a program. All of it's just a game.
Well, with this Muggle test, when you finish it, you get a score, and I'm kind of working on the kind of score results page, and you kind of get a score in terms of what kind of truther you are, and it goes from like Muggle to truth guru, and yeah, I think I'm writing up a little piece about that describes what each stage is, and under truth guru is that you don't even have to research some certain things now. You see a news headline and you already know what the story is underneath it. Yeah, because you've seen enough of the truth, you've seen enough of the jigsaw puzzle, and you've seen enough of the big picture to see already what the what the motive behind things are. Don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. So this is what you've been doing in your spare time.
Yes. So yeah, if you get a chance, it's, as I said, it's not ready yet, and so I've just put the bare test there. But eventually, as I said, it will actually email you and tell you where you've kind of, the levels of information or levels of awakening that you need to attain, or the information you need to be able to move on to the next level. It gets emailed to you, and maybe that will help people wake up a bit quicker.
Yeah. Hopefully that will happen. Oh, it's happening, isn't it, though?
Yeah, it's happening, but it's a slow process for a lot of people. Obviously, there's again, looking at these levels that I'm putting together. There's still, the majority of people are at level 1, not even level 1, level 0, and there's more people at level 1 and 2 now, but yeah, it's still a long way to go until people literally get together, because there's too many people still worried about Brexit and what Theresa May's doing, and what Trump is doing, and it's all the irrelevant stuff.
Yeah. So what have you been doing with yourself then this last so many months then? Because you're not here in the UK, are you? You're still away.
Yeah, I'm still away for another month or so. Yeah, I've been doing more work on helping people than I was when I was back at home. I was supposed to be trying to take a bit of a rest, but it's not kind of worked out that way. For some reason, it's been incredibly busy with people wanting help. Just all of a sudden, really just taken off. That's not the wrong way to put it, but it's really kind of ramped up, and I'm having a bit of trouble keeping up with it all, to be honest. But yeah, apart from that, I've been trying really to work on the website, and there've been a few people wanting help with I guess legal entanglements and debts and things like that. So I've been putting things up on the website about promissory notes and conditional acceptances and things like that, so to help people deal with such things.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time helping people, don't you? You were telling me, like, you're just inundated.
Yeah, I get something like 30, 40, sometimes 50 emails and messages and texts and whatever a day. And I've got something like 400 requests that I haven't been able to get to yet. But I'll probably will get to them, but
It sounds like you need help, Dave.
Yeah, I guess I do, but it is what it is.
Yes, well, you shouldn't be so popular, should you, as well?
Yeah, well, it's not so much about anything to do with popularity. I think.
All right, people trust you then. A better word, people trust you.
Well, I think there's a shortage of real help out there. You can't really go to anything mainstream. If you're sick, you can't really go to a hospital or a doctor, because you're not going to get help there. You're going to get poisoned and exploited. So if you need help with a legal matter, you can't really go for a lawyer. Because lawyers are working for the same people as the prosecution is working for, and a judge is working for. They're all working against you. so you can't get help there, you know. So everything in this world, there's no help for you, and there's very few people out there who are actually giving you genuine help.
Yes, I agree with you on that one. There really isn't anybody to help you. You're either lucky or you're not lucky when things happen.
Yeah, but there are, I mean, in every sphere though, there are people out there who are genuinely, you know, there to give to help you. You know, in the free man movement, I see the only one I can point to is a guy called Simon Spaniard. He's still there fighting a good fight. You know, whereas I've moved on from that. You know, in the health, you know, in a health field, there are a lot of people that I know in you know, dealing with urine therapy and distilled water and all that. They're out there still helping people. So so yeah, if you look hard enough, you'll find people that offer real help. But as I said, for the muggle who doesn't know any better, there is no help.
Yeah. That's yeah. And who is it's obviously what do you reckon it's picking up because of people like flat earthers, or just generally it's just picking up people wanting help?
It's generally I do get quite a few messages from flat earthers saying that they've just woken up to it, and some of them have ideas, and some of the ideas for experiments and stuff. Almost like they think I know how to you know, to get things into the mainstream or something. But yeah, they you know, I do get a lot of messages from people about that. But it's about everything, especially about medical you know, illnesses and stuff. I think more and more people are succumbing to this poisonous world.
Yes, this horrible poisonous world. Just to make us jealous, Dave, how hot is it with you?
Well, it's not really hot right now. The sun's gone down, but it was something like 28 degrees, something like that. This is winter, you know, so 28 degrees, nice and warm, t-shirt weather, and even nice and warm in the sea as well. So
I'm touching a piece of wood when I say this, but for about the last 3 days, the air has changed, and there's this sort of breath of spring in it. Suddenly, everything's just got a bit. The air's got different. Like, please, come on, spring, come now. Yeah. So you know, we've sort of, I don't know. It's just changed this last couple of days, but not hot.
yeah, even though really you're very far, you're still quite a way away from spring. So you know, it's a bit concerning though. You know, you go from almost blizzard conditions to the very next day it being absolutely warm. So there's something concerning about that.
But the UK is always like that, though, isn't it? You know, we might get like 20 degrees, and then suddenly snow will come for 3 days.
Yeah.
And then you look at the temperature thing, and you might find that for 2 days of the year we're hotter than nearly all the other countries put together, and then we go into a cold thing.
Yeah, I'm noticing here though that the fruits don't know when. I think they're all confused. They don't know when to start sort of flowering and stuff, because like right in front of me is a mango tree, and for the last few years, well, there was one year when the mangoes were kind of late season and they stayed on the tree longer, but right now there's flowers, they're blossoming, they're starting to, you know, and that doesn't happen usually until well into spring, but it's happening right now. Like, you know, other plants are not growing properly, they're all growing out of season.
I did hear
stuff.
that. I can't remember who said it now, that we're going to have an early spring.
Yeah, well, again, there's this. The world is kind of messed up, and it's not anything that we are doing. It's not this climate change rubbish. We all know by now that it's the techniques supposedly there to combat climate change that are causing climate change.
Yeah, there's no such thing as climate change, really. It's just a globe word. Do you
Yeah.
think also as well, it's a bit like, you know, with what history things we've got, really okay, there's the Doomsday Book, there's other things, but really we can go back to the Victorian times. But maybe the weather was always changing like this. They're just trying to cover it up all the time. Because then they've got to go to the ball, haven't they? But they're always covering up. Maybe it is a natural, you know, like it. We just don't get that far because we keep getting reset. Something like that.
No, I think actually there's the calendar, the Enoch's calendar. In the book of Enoch, it actually says that a year is 364 days. But we're on this Gregorian calendar, which says that a year is 365 and a quarter days.
So from the Victorian times to now, like a month has changed. And so things are changing, and they're saying it's global warming, when really it's just the natural change we're in. We just, you know,
the calendar isn't matching up with the actual seasons. You know, seasons are fixed and that, but our calendar is a day and a quarter out every year, and so the calendar is shifting along the seasons. And I think that may well be one of the reasons why we have famines and things, because
we've had from like the 1980s to last year of never having a proper summer at all.
Well, maybe that's because you might not have a proper summer, but perhaps spring was unseasonably warm, or autumn was really, really warm, or something like that. As I said, because our calendar is shifting around in the seasons, so that what we call summer is actually the middle of winter. Yeah, and
sometimes doesn't it feel like it? Not that you know for the last few months where you are, but you know what I mean, because you've been here for many a winter or summer. It's almost like nothing really changes from summer to winter, if you know what I mean. It's bad here and it's bad there.
So yeah, I do think that there's a calendar deception going on. I think there's more to it because that feeling that time is going a lot faster. I think it's a real thing. I think there is something going on, and I also think that's it's got something to do with things like daylight savings time and the way that all our clocks are moving to this digital format. We're all using digital watches and using our computers and tablets and smartphones to tell the time. Now it can all be changed centrally, with a click of a button. How do we know that the time is not being changed without us knowing? Yeah. When the clocks go back, for instance, we're told that one night it's going to be, they're going to sort of knock the clocks back. So when we get up in the morning and we turn the clocks back, we go somewhere official to get the time. How do we know that that's the right time? How do we know they haven't
an hour off? We wouldn't notice it, would we?
Well, they say they knock an hour off because when they change the thing, but what if they knock 15 minutes off?
Yeah.
And then the next time they knock another 15 minutes off, and so on and so on. And we don't know. We don't know how how much is being manipulated. These days we look at analog clocks, and if they're wrong, we assume because they're analog clocks they're going to be inaccurate. So we keep changing them so that they match our digital clocks. But what if the analog clock is the right one?
Yeah, I agree with you on all that.
Yeah, so
it makes you question because you can't trust anything. So what were you going to say?
I was going to say it's kind of been a couple of hours now, so I'm actually going to head off.
You're leaving us, are you, Dave? Anyway, it was a real pleasure. We really enjoyed it, and you seem quite relaxed today.
Yeah, sure, I am. But I've got to build a door, so I've got to,
I was just going to say to you, well, you're not building anything today, because I remember you had to build a bed. Now you're going to build a door.
Yeah, I've already done one door frame. I've got to build another door frame for tomorrow morning. So having building a kind of apartment thing down here. So yeah, I've got to get my woodworking hat on and start doing it before it gets too dark or too late, should we say? It's already dark.
Hey, to everybody in the chat room, thank you so much for listening in. It's been a real pleasure with Patricia, who's been a bit quiet, but our Patricia's there. Cece, and of course, Dave, allegedly Dave Murphy Moore. Any more names?
There are a few more aliases I've got over the years, but yeah, that's enough for today.
It's always a pleasure. We'll say goodbye on air, but we'll just say goodbye to each other off air, Dave. I'll say goodbye to you off air. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We're back tomorrow for our Patricia's quiz.
Yay!
Anyway,
What about the quiz? Not that we're finishing. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we knew, Patricia. Anyway, thanks, Patricia. Thanks, chat room. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Cece. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Love you, Dave. Love you, everybody in the chat.